a lot of states are seller paid commissions, and I get that sellers hate that. But with all the fees that buyers pay, you either lose your buyer completely. Mm-hmm. You just can't. It's just impossible, I think, for buyers to also be expected to pay commission on top of everything else.
At the grand scheme of things, buyers are paying the commission.
Yeah.
They are paying the seller that whole amount.
Right.
So is the seller realistically going to still be able to charge the same inflated price if the buyer knows that they're going to have to pay their own commission? No. I mean, so at the end of the day, the buyer is paying it.
Yeah.
The seller is the one that comes out of it at proceeds, but the buyer is coming out with the whole amount.
Yeah. They're walking away with the 10, 30, 40, 100 grand to put into something else. Like the buyer is using every penny they have just to get a loan to do this house. Mm-hmm. And, I've always been in a state where the seller has paid. So I've never been in a situation where that hasn't been the case, but I just can't fathom that we would, especially in my section of Central Texas, where we wouldn't lose almost 100% of our buyer pool because they're literally, they're literally making ends meet to make this happen.
I think that's where you have to get more creative on structure for money paid by closer. Yeah. So instead of it being an automatic thing, it's asked for as a closing cost contribution.
Well, then what do you do for VA? VA is not allowed to pay. They're not allowed to pay commissions. So are literally sellers never going to take a VA loan?
Yeah. I don't know.
VA loan has existed like that for ages where they don't pay commissions. We can't write it in.
I do, however, feel like it would be nice to change the principle that we have to put as a listing agent, what we're going to pay a buyer's agent into the MLS. Because I really do feel like there's a lot of buyer's agents now who don't do much of their lifting at all.
No.
I mean, and especially in our area, because we do have a lot of second home buyers. So we'll have agents from Houston that sign their name on the contract, never show up, didn't show up to the first showing, don't show up for anything the whole time, or pretty much non-existent all the way through to where the seller's agent, in many cases me, is having to meet the inspector, is having to meet the appraiser, is having to do all of the lifting on the transaction.
Yeah.
And yet they make the same as me.
Well, and because they're joining all the boards. They just, they have the ability to.
Well, and a lot of times they don't.
Well, and so in my listing agreements, I always pay them a reduced rate anyway.
Well, sub-agents I don't pay, and then out of town I pay reduced. But
But we don't disclose that. And so what Zillow is posting, it says 3% buyer's agent or whatever. Mm-hmm. That might not necessarily be true. And I'm always very upfront. If it's someone, and I just had an agent ask me, I think yesterday, asked me what do you do with an out of MLS agent? And I said, well, I first asked them, how do you plan on gaining access to the property? I said, if they don't have super access. And she's like, well, will you ever go open for them? And I said, yes, because that's my fiduciary duty to my seller is to show it to a qualified buyer, regardless of if I'm representing them or not. So yes, I will go pop a box and sit there and wait, even if their agent is present. I said, but that is also why I will pay them a reduced rate, because they're not competent in the area and they're not supposed to be practicing outside of their competency. Mm-hmm. They aren't going to know inspectors. So they're probably going to say, hey, listing agent, what are your recommended inspectors? Or they're going to Google it and God only knows
whoever they get.
Yeah, get whoever they get. They're not going to know, especially any sort of city or municipal codes or PUD districts or PID districts or groundwater districts or, septic stuff. They're not going to know any of that.
They barely know what the house looks like from a picture.
So I'm not going to pay them that rate. And so she was like, I don't really want to meet them because, he doesn't have access. And I was like, well, you have to.
Yeah.
However, I'm very upfront in the beginning. Hey, I don't pay MLS. It depends on the specific, situation. But I'll say, hey, I pay non-MLS, sellers agreed to pay non-MLS 1%. And I tell them that up front.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you might drive from Houston for this one showing, but then you're not here for anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm sorry, not sorry. But like, if we're going to have to disclose fees, we should have to disclose all the fees instead of having to have that conversation. But then it becomes agents won't show because, oh, well, I'm not going to take that commission. Right. And I'm like, that's not why you're in it, friend. Like, that's not why.
Well, and that's why I think that we ought to go back to, instead of advertising in MLS, anything about what will pay the other side, a registration between brokers.
Right.
You want to show the property, reach out to us directly, find out what we're working with. I've got one client that is in very much a second home area, and he's an attorney. So he wrote out that in order for the buyer's agent to be paid 3%, they have to be at every single appointment.
Yep.
If their clients step on the property for any reason or anything is done at the property for any reason for that client, they have to be there or they only get 1%, period.
I saw that, I think, in one of your listings.
Yeah. And I put it in offer instructions in the MLS so that it's visible for everybody to see that that's the way that is. But, I mean, it's just crazy that there's no protection for really great agents that are doing all the things.
Yeah. And I'm not saying I'll take that commission. I'm fine with giving it back to my seller if we get to the closing table. Like, I'm not saying...
It's not that I'm wanting extra. It's just not... It's bullshit that you're getting paid the same as somebody that didn't do their job.
Like the deal that we did.
Yeah.
That we co-listed. Like, you and I did a majority of that deal.
Right.
But we still had to pay that other agent 3%. Mm-hmm. And that sucked. Like, that really sucked. Because
she made a mess of the transaction. The only part she did step into was like stepping into a pile of crap.
Yeah. And it was just, but it's frustrating, right? Like, it's just so frustrating that it's like when, especially because it was a family member, she was just, you know, my sister will handle this or whatever. And it was so hard the whole time. And we were fighting so hard the whole time. And I'm like, you're not even showing up. Like, you're not even coming to the table with anything of use. Like, you met the appraiser. I met the home inspector. The clients were there for the home inspector. I mean, we were all like, it sucked to tell the seller, hey, you still have to pay that 3% because that's the agreement in MLS. Like, I mean, they didn't want to. They emailed us.
I just think that whole part should be taken out of MLS.
It's just ridiculous.
And it should go back to a registration agreement.
It's just, I mean, we have the form.
Yeah. I mean, why do we have it if we're not using it for that?
It's just...
So, I mean, everything should be circumstantial. Are you in the area? Am I going to have to send you the MLS printout for you to do the offer? Am I going to have to get you the tax information? Because God forbid you look up the right tax information. In
Waco, you can't. We can't give them the agent MLS sheet. We have to give them the client. And so like Dallas, Houston, those agents bitch at us all the time. And I'm like, I can't.
It's against our rules.
I will send you the ruling on it. I can't. Like, because you're not in competency. You're not here.
Right.
It's the one protection that I think that Waco has done for the agents is that we say, I can't.
Well, and they're supposedly making Texas the data exchange statewide. And then having
supposedly
different boards.
I don't know if that's going to pass. They're supposed to quadrant us, which I don't know what that would do for Waco since we're kind of smack dab in the middle. But I don't know. The data exchange kind of makes me nervous because it also messes with non-disclosure.
Well, and the data exchange makes me nervous because then what's to stop somebody from Amarillo to decide that, I'm going to practice in New Braunfels?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's going to lead to a lot of agents practicing in places they're not competent. But, I mean, let's be real. There's a lot of brokers that really don't care.
Yeah.
Until there's a problem, they don't care.
No.
They don't know their agent's first and last name, much less where they're practicing or what they're doing. I mean, there's no way as a broker you can have 1,000 agents under you and have any clue who they are.
And that you've met with them and reviewed their contracts and made sure.
And their competency.
Yeah. There's no way. I mean, and there's no way that broker is competent in every area that their 1,000 agents is in. Like, there's just no way.
No.
And they'll say,
well, we have a manager in every single area.
And that's what they'll say. I have a broker manager in that area. I'm like,
but a lot of times they don't.
But even if they did, or if they don't, if you get sued, it doesn't matter that you had a manager in place. You're still getting sued. Your agent got sued, you get sued. That's the rule. Like,
yeah. I don't know. I just think that a lot of things with all of that need to change.
Yeah.
Texas, I feel like, is way too big.
Yeah.
For you to have statewide ability to sell.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Texas might as well be like a different country within our country. I mean, like, we've got beach areas, forests, deserts. I mean, like, totally different geographic areas. So to think that somebody in El Paso is going to have competency in Port Aransas.
Yeah.
Oh, but I can sell statewide.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I'm licensed in the state of Texas, but I'm not going to go sell in West Texas or East Texas or whatever. Like, stick to my bubble. Nor do I want to drive that far.
No.
Like, stick to my bubble.
That's what referral agreements are for.
Yeah.
Like I can stay in my own bubble and still get paid 20 to 30%.
Right. And
I did was make an introduction.
Yeah, and I'm happy with that. I sent that client to someone that I felt was competent. And if it works out, fantastic.
Yeah.
But it's just like, just shoot me.
Yeah, it's just everywhere. And I feel like it's agents that aren't really doing anything in their own home market.
Yeah.
That are then venturing out.
Yes.
You know, because something fell into their laps.
Right.
And that's even more dangerous because you're barely competent in your home market.
Right.
And now you're going to venture across the state because you can?
Because you happen to get a lead in that area. It's very different.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think everything is going to have like a whole burning it down and starting over.
Which I don't think it'll ever happen.
It needs to.
I know, but
there's no way these mega brokerages are producing competent agents. There's just not.
No, and there's just not enough. I mean, for as much oversight as we have, there's not enough oversight on that. It's just like the same argument, and it kind of came down a lot. I've seen it come down a lot, but like, you know, we had Open Door, we had Zillow, we had there was, you know, whatever there was a bunch
Orchard
of there was a bunch of like random, you know, online brokerages that didn't have any boots on the ground type of thing. But then those are all, you know, kind of pretty much gone away. But discount brokers were the thing before that, where it's like, oh, $4.95 flat fee, whatever to get you an MLS. But it's like there's no oversight on those either because they're not doing anything except putting it in MLS. They're not assisting. It's call owner, text owner. And I had one of those this past weekend. I called, left 3 messages, and texted. Owner never called back. I'm like, you just don't want to sell your house? Like, why are you even in MLS? Like, why are we playing this game? But it's, you know, those are our duties. And I just feel like you're not even holding them to their fiduciary duties if you're just letting them list for whatever. And I mean, if an agent wants to take $500 to put it in MLS, great. But it's at the same time, it's all of the other stuff that you're not getting. And it's just beyond me. I have a really hard time understanding
how you give up half of your licensed duties just to make less money.
I mean, yeah. And how sellers are okay with that. And they're just like, oh, they put an MLS for me. And
because I feel like a lot of sellers feel like that's the only piece that they don't have access to.
Yeah.
Like a lot of sellers have this, like, I can do it on my own mentality. I can show my own house. I can do, you know, all of this. But what they don't also have in most cases is real market knowledge.
Right.
Of everything else. Like, I get that you want $500,000 for your house, but what you don't understand is that the house down the street asked $465 and was on the market for 62 days and ended up selling for $420.
Right.
So you can want it all day long, but
I want $1 million every day. But you know,
I know that would be great. But
money tree.
That's the thing is, I think that, and with like ChatGPT and all the things that are coming out, they do have more access to everything.
Yeah.
You know, to be able to facilitate a lot of pieces of a transaction for themselves.
Right.
But I think it's also a demographics thing because, you know, your higher end properties a lot of those clients are also savvy enough to start their own LLC or whatever. Right. But instead, they pay an attorney to do it.
Right.
Because they understand that there's some things that they may not know.
Right.
And same thing, that kind of higher end demographic hires a realtor to market their home because while they're probably savvy enough to do it, they'd rather stay in their lane with what they actually do.
I mean, that's why I have attorney clients. I have attorney clients because can they legally write their own contract?
Yes, absolutely.
100%. Can they alter the contract? 100%.
Yeah.
They totally can. Mm-hmm. But will they? No.
Is it worth their time to do it?
No. Is it worth their time to call the agents, to do the negotiations, make sure the repairs are done, to run home inspections, be there for home inspections, do all those things? No.
Keep up with every date in the contract.
Yeah, they have
constantly.
They have 40, 50, 60 other contracts they're dealing with and other people. They want someone to handle their stuff. And it's just they don't know the photographers. They don't know the vendors that we do. It's silly to me that they that they feel like that is the only piece that they need. Mm-hmm. And what if your appraisal comes in not what you want it to be? How do you can you contest it? How do you talk to them? Can you talk to the appraiser? Those are all questions that a lot of people don't know the answer to.
And then when you get that VA amendatory clause and what is that? I still have people all the time. Tidewater's huge.
What is a if you lender reach out to seller and says, "Hey, Tidewater was called." If you have a discount broker, that broker's not doing shit.
No,
they're not running cops for you.
That stinks. Sorry, click.
Yeah, they're probably not even going to tell that seller.
And I wonder that about the discount brokerages too. Are they really maintaining their files like most of us have to? Did they prepare a CMA for that client, or do they just? What do you want for your house? Okay, cool. I'll click a picture with my iPhone and put it in there for you.
I'll use my editing app, my Lightroom app, and make it look nice. Sky replacement. Send it to Box Brownie.
I don't know. I mean, I guess there's something for everybody in terms of how they want to do the transaction. I think that if anything, ChatGPT and all this automation stuff that's happening is actually only helping those of us that have been really relationship-based.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the agents who didn't bother to learn how to create those relationships are relying so much on automation that they're automating their way out of a job.
Yeah.
Because
they're going to get a lawsuit so fast.
Well, and I mean, if a computer can do everything that they do, then a person really doesn't need them.
Right.
But if you're adding value and services that there's no computer that can replace that,
right,
then that's where you're going to have longevity. But yeah, I mean, I think it's like a million other industries right now that are relying on AI for everything. And, oh, this is so great. I don't even have to write my own blog post. Yeah, you don't have to write your own blog post. But then what happens is you miss perspective,
right?
People want to read your blog post because you have a unique perspective. AI and ChatGPT doesn't have the same perspective,
right?
Because they've never seen it,
right?
So eventually that voice that's uniquely yours that people want to listen to and want to hear and want to know your opinion on things, it ceases to exist,
right?
And then what are you going to do?